How's it going, everyone? Welcome to Meal Prep, where we feast in the meta by prepping for the meta. We got some more new reveals for battle partners that I can't wait to dive into, so I won't. Let's just go ahead and get right into it, and I'm going to highlight some cards that I find really interesting and will probably be cooking with. I will be skipping most of the trainers Pokemon though, because I already covered those reveals in a separate video. This will just cover everything new that I haven't already talked about. Shouts to PokeBeach, who provided all the information I'm using today. Starting with this Butterfree, which says that for 1 grass energy, you can flip 4 coins and do 60 damage per heads. If at least 2 of the flips were heads, you can also paralyze the opponent. I think that is very underrated for a single prizer. With 3 heads flips, you can KO a Charizard. With 2, you can KO a Roaring Moon EX. Let alone leaving it paralyzed if you can't get the KO. I'm going to be eyeballing this one. Maractus also seems like the kind of thing that I would add to my Uxie spread deck. Its ability says that if it gets knocked out by an attack, it deals 60 damage back to the attacker, and then for 1 colorless, it does 20 and the opponent's Pokemon can't retreat. This could be really nice against decks that play Latias EX, as they tend to go lower on the switch count. And that full art looks great. I'm a big fan of this card already. Excelgor sounds like it would be really good in a poison package. For a grass and a colorless, it does 70 damage, poisons, and confuses, and then switches to a benched Pokemon. A little bit like Flygon, except you really don't rely on Brute Bonnet with this guy. I think this could also be really great. Moving on to fire, Magmortar looks like it could be the start of a new burn package. Its ability makes it so you can put 3 more damage counters on a burn Pokemon. And I see no indication that says that this wouldn't stack. So this could be pretty nasty if it does what I think it does. Don't forget, we still have Dangerous Laser in format, which is a free burn that doesn't require any setup. Very excited to mess around with this one. Speaking of which, Volcan EX has an ability that can burn the opponent's active while it is in the active. Perfect combo to pair with Magmortar. It also has an attack Heat Cyclone, which does 160 and moves an energy to one of your benched Pokemon, which could allow you to get something else powered up in the background. Wait, what? Water also has a couple cool cards to play with. Ludicolo is interesting to me because it flat out gives 40 plus HP to all your Pokemon, which doesn't stack. I'd love to see this in a super tanky Palafin build that uses things like Rigid Band to mitigate damage while having a crazy high health pool too. Or maybe it could pair with Wailord, which has a whopping 240 HP on a single prizer, and has the attack Hydro Pump, which does 10 damage plus 50 for every water energy attached. This feels like it would be a very good Baxcalibur target, even possibly replacing Qianpao, because it doesn't need to discard energy to do it, and it has more HP than Qianpao too. I think we can make this work for sure. Stay tuned for that. There's a single prize Bayet coming too, which has the attack Curse Speech. For 1 Psychic, your opponent has to shuffle 3 cards from their hand into their deck. If you pair it with something like 0-6 Machinations or Hand Trimmer, that is some wild hand disruption. Shout out to Chef Stu from my Discord squad for pointing that out to me. This sounds a little bit like what Arbok EX does, but much easier to set up. And finally, we get a Mamos EX card. And it sounds like it's going to be really good. During your turn, you get to search for a Pokemon and put it in your hand. And again, there's no caveat that says that it doesn't stack. So once you get your first one set up, it'll be much easier to get the rest. And it does 180 damage and 40 more for each stage 2 on your bench for just 2 fighting energy. So on a full bench of stage 2s, we're potentially looking at 380 damage. This sounds like a shoe-in to play with Pidgeot. I'm really excited to see what this one does in action. It's about time my guy got some love. Looks like we're going all the way into an item lock meta. This single prize Tyranitar makes it so that as long as it's in the active, the opponent can't play item cards. And then for a dark and a colorless, it also mills 2 cards and does 150 damage. I'm a little scared of the direction we're going in for the next 3 years, if I'm being honest. With this and Budu, I'm starting to think items might be going out of style. Magearna sounds fun. While it's in the active, you can heal 90 damage from a Pokemon if you just attach an energy to it. It sounds like a pretty solid 1-of or 2-of card that you can throw into just about anything. I haven't talked about Hop's Corviknight before, but this is looking pretty stacked too on a deck that's already looking like it's going to be really strong. For 1 colorless, it can hit the active and hit the bench for 50. Remember that Hop's Choice Band makes attacks cost 1 colorless less and do 30 more damage. Then for 2 metal and a colorless, it can also do 150 damage and take 60 less the following turn. I don't think Hop's deck really needed that kind of help, but this sounds very strong for a 1 prizer, considering how many ways Hop has of raising its damage. Salamance gets an EX this time around and can smack the bench really hard. For a fire and 2 colorless, it does 50 damage to all of your opponent's bench Pokemon. And then for a fire, water, and 2 colorless, it also does 300 damage to the active, but it requires you to discard 2 energies. I'm just glad Regidrago won't have this card for very long. Bruh. Moving on to items, Exchange Ticket gives us something to be excited about once Hisuian Heavy Ball rotates. It says that you count your prize cards and shuffle them to the bottom of your deck. Then you take that many off the top, and those are your new prize cards. I think this could be great because it gives you a lot more control as to what goes into the prizes as long as you have something like Academy at Night or Cypher Maniac. Hop's Bag also looks to be a buddy-buddy, but for Hop's Pokemon. But good lord, it doesn't need anything else, it's already looking busted as is. Brock Scouting sounds like it'll be a pretty good setup card, considering how much item lock there is in format right now. This could be like a buddy-buddy or like an Ultra Ball without needing to use the item or discarding anything. I think this will find its place in some decks too now that Budu has started its menacing reign. And last but not least, the newest special energy in format will be Spike Energy, which gives 1 colorless and is essentially a Rocky Helmet, which lets you put 2 damage counters on the opponent if the Pokemon it's attached to takes a hit. This sounds like it'll work really well in decks that have strong hit back attacks. I might consider running it wherever I play the new Maractus. But that's all I really got my eye on for this list. I'm leaving a link to the article so you can see it all for yourself. If you think I missed anything, or if you want to try and cook with any of these, let me know and I'll give it another look. Thanks everyone for watching. We're getting really close to 500 subs, so if you can drop me a sub, I'd be forever grateful. Otherwise, I'll earn it next time. I'll see you then.